Hello everyone, welcome to the channel and welcome to the Walkway project. I was not able to film this entire project, so this video is mainly going to be a collage of pictures with voiceover to highlight the process when I made the sidewalk. So if that's not your thing, I understand, but I hope that I will see you at the end. This was a fun project, a time-consuming project. Not necessarily difficult, but it entailed a lot of stuff to be able to do it right. So I will cover most of that, and I hope to see you at the end. These brick pavers are reclaimed from the back side of the house. Most of them were almost all the way under the ground and covered in mud, so we spent a lot of time pulling them up, and each one of them got cleaned and power washed. Before photos show the wood walkway. It was needing to be replaced pretty bad. Probably coming up on 50 plus years old. This house was built in the mid 70s. And the walkway was actually made out of a redwood material that's pretty rot resistant, but the substructure were two 2x6 long leaf pine boards that were suffering pretty badly. Rot resistant does not mean rot proof. So a lot of the boards had started to give way, and the major thing was the substructure, which was the two 2x6 long leaf. They're running the length of the walkway were definitely rotten, and I had replaced quite a few boards over the years with some treated material, but there's nothing left to screw them down to. At this point, instead of the walkway sitting above the dirt or the soil, it is basically sitting in the dirt. Another issue we wanted to fix while we're doing this is, as you note, there is no step in front of this garage door, the garage entry. So this is a huge step in and a drop down into the garage. The main step up onto the porch had rotted away a long time ago, so the existing step that I had at the moment was just some makeshift boards just to provide a step, which needed some serious TLC also. Plus, as you can see, there is not any kind of handle or rail, so we definitely needed to fix that in the process also. The walkway had become a hazard, so we just had to finally decide to do it. It was a couple years coming, and we finally just ripped it out and started working and got it done. I thought I had better pictures of this process, but I couldn't find them. But after we got the walkway tore out, my first priority was trying to figure out how to put the steps in. There's probably 100 different ways to skin this out, but the gist of it was I wanted a sturdy, permanent step in both locations. Under each one of these steps is a concrete foundation block that I poured and let cure, and then I basically just came back and added brick around and wrapped it in brick and then put brick on the top. You can obviously see I have a lot of mortar that still needs to be cleaned off at this point, but this was my first mortar job ever, so I didn't do too bad, but I learned a few things and still got a lot to learn. And for my level of amateur on this type of work, I actually feel like they turned out pretty good. They'll look a lot better once I do an acid wash on them. So here comes the fun part. It seemed like it took me forever to get out of this corner, but once I got the steps done, the next thing I had to do was get the walkway area down to grade. And in this corner, it seemed like it took a long time. It was a bit of a dry spell late last fall. The subsoil was hard as a rock. I had a lot of difficulty digging, not to include that if you look over in the utility boxes and the PVC coming up out of the ground, most of that stuff crosses the walkway. So I had a lot of different stuff that I had to deal with in this corner. and basically had to run. Once I found the utilities, which some of them were quite a bit shallower than what they should have been, had to protect those and put back and get everything down. There's a lot of roots in this area. The trees that are behind me have a massive root system, which caused a lot of complications. But anyway, it took a long time to do this corner, and once I finally got done with this corner, it wasn't too bad doing the rest of it. Just had to basically build the sub and get it nice and level, and then plan on coming back with some gravel and some sand. You can kind of see down on the far right over here, I thought I had better pictures than this, but the main thing I was worried is that I got the sub level as I could, and I came back with some inch minus clean limestone, and I packed it in real good, and then I had a layer of sand on top of it, and then I placed the paver bricks on top of that, so you can fine-tune the sand a whole lot easier. And there is a slight grade looking at this from left to right. That way, if there's any standing water, it will run off to the right out into the yard. Looking at this image, I had a string line running over here on the left-hand side for the lighter brick. This is the lighter brick is a newer brick. The darker red brick is the repurposed salvaged brick from around the back side of the house, which is super old and very imperfect. None of these bricks were the same. So if you kind of look at the brick, it looks a little bit wavy. It's just because of the imperfections of the old brick. Had to do the best I could, but the outer light edge is perfectly straight. And then I made sure that my inner edge on the right-hand side, close to the mulched garden area, made sure I kept it level, and there's just a slight grade down from right to left from this image. So the next major obstacle that I ran into as I was getting down close to the corner was this gutter drain. There were a few things that I had to remedy here. First of all, the old drain was busted and cracked. It was full of dirt. It wasn't even really draining anymore. And the major thing also was that it was not deep enough. The brick that I'm laying down is actually a couple inches deeper than what the substructure was from the wooden walkway. So I had to pull all this out, clean it up, get some new gutter drain, dig a new trench, and get this down lower so I could come back over this with the brick. Here's a slightly different angle on that picture. So the next major obstacle was doing the curve, which wasn't actually that difficult. It was pretty fun, kind of enjoyable doing that. I basically just took a lot of the original salvage brick and I just kind of cut them down, maybe cut a little bit of an angle so the turn and curve is a little bit smoother. But I also had a string line over here on the outside again that I moved once I got to the corner, so I kind of had an angle that I was aiming for to kind of finish out the curve. And also in the meantime, on the inside, I bought some metal. I don't even know what you call it, but it's like a threshold that holds back the mulch. That'll hold back the mulch there in that kind of like the little bush or garden area. And I was laying it in the meantime. So here is the final major obstacle with this project. There is a satellite dish for the home located over here on this pole that you can kind of see in this bottom corner. But the cable for the satellite dish runs along the driveway and was just on top of the soil underneath the old wood walkway. Well, that wouldn't work with the brick the way that it is, so I had to redig underneath there, and I chose to go ahead and just redig the whole thing, and I laid the whole thing in PVC to protect it. That way also I could drag some more cables through that PVC at a later date if I needed to. and to not have to dig all this back up again. So that was a pretty major undertaking, but that was the final major complication with this walkway. Along the way, I put in this handle, this rail, and it's steel pipe that is set in a concrete post. So all I had left to do was finish out this remaining little bit out to the driveway. I had to cut the asphalt a little bit in the driveway up here in this top corner to kind of bring that brick in. This is not how it's going to be permanently, but I had to also, there's a low area here on the right hand side where that gravel is. I filled it in because there was a dip. It's kind of a trip hazard. And the brick that is laying down here on the bottom at the different angle that's kind of holding that edge in, there's a low area in the ground over here in the grass that you can't see from this angle in this picture, but I need to come back in with some topsoil and kind of fill this low area in to kind of hold that brick edging in, and then those won't be there anymore. The last thing that I had to do was I bought a few bags of the paver sand, the polymeric locking sand, and spread that out along the walkway and kind of spread it in the cracks. Note to self, you don't really need as much of that. I bought like 3 bags and I ended up only using 2. I thought that I was gonna use a lot more of it than what I did, but I got off without having to use all of it. Well, there you go. Hope you made it to the end. I appreciate you watching. Feel free to leave a comment, subscribe if you haven't, and I'll see you on the next video. Have a good day. Later.